Got the football in focus, teed up indoors on Battleground. Mike Fanning with us from Grimsley and with the Whirlies, and top team in the state now. High school OT's got Grimsley ranked number 1. Can't beat that. At the very top after Providence Day got beat last week. They moved right up.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that could be a little misleading, coming from the coaches and the polling side and the media influence and where exactly their playoff seeding, works out with this whole, strength of schedule and all that works out right now. Last I checked earlier this week, they came in at 4th. But I think anybody who's seen the eye test,
oh yeah.
Anybody, and Andy, I know you were there. Yeah, anybody who's seen the eye test knows Grimsley's got to be one of the top teams in the state, if not number 1.
I got the eye test, I got the foot test too, got the shoes. I felt like I'd been out mowing the yard that day. That grass around the field was kind of a wet night, but it was a good night because it was, I kind of like being down the field sometimes. You're on top of the action for the most part, and got to see face-on Brandon go to work throwing that ball at Alex Taylor and Terrell Anderson. And it's really interesting too because a lot of these offenses are alike these days, right? A lot of people use the same kind of offense. It's almost like a toss and run. It's not really a long pass on most occasions. Use this outside pass, let the receivers take off and make as much as you can.
No, that's exactly right. I wanted to go back. You just had Dimitri on. We talked a little Southwest, and that's where Grimsley was a week ago. Before the Page game, and we couldn't do the show.
Right.
Things were moving around because of the weather. But you're exactly right. You saw the same thing against the Cowboys as you saw against Page. Those short, accurate, quick passes out to the wings, get the ball to the playmakers. It doesn't go far. Maybe it's just a yard or two. Maybe it's even behind the line of scrimmage. But they throw it outside the numbers and let these guys go to work. And Grimsley has the athletes to take advantage of some secondaries. It just doesn't have the speed Grimsley has.
Yeah, if you give those guys a couple of spaces out there too, if you play off the line, maybe a few steps, they catch the ball, they've got to move on you. They're going to be gone at least for 25, 30 yards. Sometimes they're going to finish it up with a touchdown.
Well, Grimsley prides themselves on, they run 4 or 5 wide receiver sets. Who's ever not getting the football is blocking. Their wide receivers do such a fantastic job blocking downfield.
The game just kind of specialize on that. Watch the guys without the ball. Watch to see what they're doing.
And unfortunately for the Whirlies last week, some of those good blocks, let's be fair about this, whether they're good blocks or not, but were called back because of holding.
Right.
And you saw that in the first half. Some big plays get brought back because of what they perceived as wide receiver holding. So something they got to clean up the week ahead. But going back the last couple weeks, big takeaway for me, Andy, is what Mitchell Summers has done on the ground.
Oh, unreal. I mean, he doesn't get 200 yards, but he gets 5 touchdowns, 118, 120 yards, and man, the guy kind of not very big, not very tall, not huge, but when he hits that hole, he gets to the line quick, gets to the line of scrimmage quick out of the backfield. Once he hits that line, 2 or 3 steps, this guy can be on his way down the road and long gone.
Yeah, he's got tremendous vision. I mean, his stats all season have been eye-popping. I will talk about some of the numbers. But last week against Page, a team that, you got to remember, all week long we were anticipating a ton of rain. We really were. We were participating. We were expecting a downpour Friday. A lot of games got moved up to Thursday, hence, why we couldn't do the show. So everybody thinking, okay, let's stack the box. It's going to be hard to throw a very slick football, in the torrential downpour. Let's play big on the line of scrimmage. Let's stack the box. Running against those loaded boxes that Page tried, 9 carries, 118 yards, 5 touchdowns for Mitchell Summers. 5 touchdowns on just 9 carries. He averaged 13 yards a carry. And this is the most mind-blowing stat, I guess. We'll talk about some crazy ones for the Whirlies. Mitchell Summers, 133 carries this year, is averaging 9.2 yards a touch.
10 yards a carry.
I mean, when you have a running back,
down almost every carry.
When you have a running back, amongst everything they else have on offense, but when you have a running back averaging 9 yards a carry, and we talk about that gold standard being 4.5, the stats don't lie after 9 games. They got something special in the backfield.
He's got something special, too. He's got that hat. You see the hat he puts on after he comes out of the game, that crazy hat he wears. I mean, this kid's, but when you talk to him, he's got the hat running around going like a madman, having fun, celebrating, enjoying things. But when I did a post-game interview with him, it was a very good interview. The guy
I thought it was
down.
great,
He does really good. A lot of good information, very well, I'll say poised, very poised.
And he's poised when he gets the football because he's letting the play develop in front of him. He's got tremendous instincts, great vision to bounce it around. And then once he gets to the second level, he's got breakaway speed. And oh, by the way, a stiff arm, and he can finish his runs. So every opponent that we've done, that we've covered for the Whirlies this year, they've tried in different ways to take a little bit of the run game away. They've tried to, load the box up, but week after week, they keep running the football and having tremendous success doing it.
And you think about him, too, as far as he goes. I mean, that game, I'm not sure the minute and second total when he came out, but in the fourth, he didn't play a lot in the fourth quarter. He sat out quite a bit in the fourth quarter.
Yeah, we just saw the Whirly offense come out for just one possession after halftime to go ahead and pull away, essentially, and get that running clock going. The Grimsley Whirlies they've played 9 games, 5 of them have been mercy rule games where that rolling clock has taken effect in the fourth quarter. So they're not even having to play full games. Think about that. They played more games with a running clock than they have without.
And think about this, too. Those who kind of follow Grimsley and others that follow other teams want to catch up with Grimsley. Grimsley JV's unbeaten, going for an unbeaten season, close it out tonight. Kaiser currently unbeaten. They feed Grimsley. They're unbeaten. They've won 34-0 yesterday. They had the running clock, 28-0 Mercerville in middle school football, but I mean, that's what you got to face in the future. What the future's going to be like. You got Kaiser unbeaten, JV's unbeaten, Grimsley's unbeaten. I mean, among those streets, ain't lost a game this year.
It's interesting that the Grimsley offense, and we saw this against Page, thinking again, we had the delayed start because we had the bad hailstorm. We had the rain. We had the wind. We were expecting sloppy field conditions, although, Andy, I thought the field held together great. That Bermuda turf that they have there at Jamison Stadium, I thought looked fantastic as the game went on. We really didn't see a lot of footing issues. But I was expecting to see a lot of stack box, a lot of running plays. But instead, the Whirly offense, as we've seen it develop this year under this sophomore quarterback, it's not necessarily run-pass option. Like you see a lot of, meet at the quarterback, I'll pull it out of your belly. Yeah. They run so many designed pass plays and so many designed running plays.
Right.
Yep, they feel like a little bit of a pro-style offense. There's not a lot of rinky-dink stuff that's going on, and missed exchanges, handoff, timing plays like that. They have so much trust in that their running backs can get the job done, that their quarterbacks can get the job done. We haven't even talked about their defense yet.
And you think about Faison Brandon, he was such a smooth quarterback. Got those long legs, that big body. I was thinking about Jeff Blake today. Jeff Blake might have been smaller than Faison Brandon, but as far as effectiveness goes, efficiency goes, he reminds me of Jeff Blake in some ways, getting it done with the run and with the pass. I mean, he's just as good a runner as he is a passer, and his moves are so smooth and so athletic when he's out there moving around. It's like watching bing, 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 he's taking off and going and not getting hit a lot. He avoids a lot of hits because of the hips and the shoulders and the legs and the arms. They're moving so well.
By the time a play breaks down where he feels like he has to run, because they haven't called his name a lot on design runs, but when the play breaks down, he has to escape the pocket. Guess where those wide receivers are? They're running towards the end zone. He's got wide open space in front of him. We saw that against Page, too. If you can't keep him in the pocket, once he's past the line of scrimmage, you're off to the races. He checks in at 6'5", and I did a little research before last week's game because he checks in at 6'5". That would be tied for the third tallest quarterback in the NFL.
Wow.
So there's a lot of guys that are 6'5", but when you have a high school quarterback who's a sophomore,
plus what is he, 210, 215? He's got to be close.
He's putting on, he's probably getting up there now. But you take 6'5" and you put him in a high school offense. You can see why he has some of the scouts drooling. But again, it's not necessarily run first with him. They feel very comfortable. They don't have to disguise anything. If they want to go to the air, they do, and they do it well.
Think about him when he takes off on these broken plays and runs, and almost like some of those are design runs. He makes them look so smooth and so effective.
Yeah,
he makes it look so good.
Yeah, he does. He's making it. This offense has scored 65 touchdowns. I know you're going to ask me this. Maybe you weren't. I'm going to tell you anyway.
Well, I got blown away when the guy announced the other night. He said he's got Summers had like 25 touchdowns, hit that point. I was like, that's a lot. Is that guy announcing correctly? Yeah, that's correct. And I think your guy, Faison Brandon's like at 31 touchdowns total responsibility.
So I did a little digging today in preparation for the show. The Whirlies through 9 games have scored 65 touchdowns. And okay, but Mike, I need some context. Tell me, where does 65 touchdowns? Well, that averages out to 7.2 touchdowns per game. The state record was set back in 2001. Most prolific offense of all time, Alba Meyer, scored 7.5 touchdowns per game. Grimsley's in that conversation of having the most dynamic scoring offense in the state in history of North Carolina.
Who was the team that was the tops?
Alba Meyer back in 2001, scored 7.5. So they're in that
I
conversation.
would say Charlotte Independence would be somewhere too, maybe possibly, back in Tom Knott's days.
Yeah. So when you start breaking it down, touchdowns per game, scoring offense, it's difficult to compare season to season because you have different length seasons. So when you start looking at total points, how many games did they play, and things like that. But when you start breaking it down game by game, you're looking at maybe one of the most prolific offenses in the history of North Carolina.
Let's break down that Northern Guilford offense a little bit. Jackson Kemp at quarterback tomorrow night for Northern Guilford, going to lead them in. Last game against, didn't play last week. He was out injury. But against Page, like 242 yards passing, several touchdowns. So he's a guy I'm sure Grimsley's well aware of. They're facing this kid tomorrow night.
Hey, this is the first time in the last 2 weeks that Grimsley's going to go against a team that has a quarterback. Yeah. Against the Cowboys and against the Pirates, we saw multiple guys taking the ball under center. And you know what? You know the old adage: if you got 2 or 3 quarterbacks, you don't have one.
Right, I've heard that.
Well, well, Northern does. They have Kemp, who's thrown for over 1,000 yards this season. He can work and improve his accuracy. But I went back and I watched that Page film. And you saw them throwing the ball out to the edges. You saw them having success testing these cornerbacks. And that's a challenge the Whirlies have not had to deal with for the last 3 weeks.
And they've got 4 receivers against the ball, plus they've got 3 running backs that can run the ball, too. So they've got some balance on that team as far as the offense goes once they get it clicking. And Grimsley can have a lot to do with not allowing them to get that offense clicking, because they talked about the defense a little bit early, just briefly. But that defense is looking so tough now. Nobody wants to go against that defense. It's extremely tough to go against that defense now.
This defense in conference play, Andy, has given up 26 points. 26 points, that's it. They've pitched 3 shutouts. But what I like about Northern is the fact that they can get the ball out quick.
Oh, yeah.
And that's something the Whirlies haven't seen a lot of. Now, when you put guys in space, a broken tackle here and there, those can be game changers.
Sure
so this is something that the Whirlies have not seen a lot of. This is something, of course, we know the Grimsley cornerbacks have played at a very, very high level all year. But this is something different that they haven't seen the last few weeks. And for Kemp, I think for everybody, testing these guys, throwing the ball around a little bit more than what the Whirlies have seen, could lead to some
Kemp kind of got some of the same DNA that Faison Brandon has. They're both sophomores. That's similar. Yep. But the fact, too, Kemp, when able to, can run very, very, very good. Yeah. Very good runner.
Yeah, and you tack on McManus. They have some other guys in the backfield, too.
I tell you, Dwight Hall last week, Kemp out of the game. They played last week, and Hall had, I think, 208 yards rushing last week. Dwight Hall, number 24 for them. Very good runner. Plus, Amari Akers, I don't think he even played last week. So if they get him back, there's their 1-2 punch they like to go with again.
Every coach I've talked to as we prep for these games says, we gotta control the ball. We got to keep it away from Grimsley, that is. We got to get first downs. We got to be efficient on first down, and that was the key right there. That's been the key for the Whirlies all season, is holding teams to either 1 or 2 yards on first down. Now it's 2nd and long. Now it's 3rd and longer. So Grimsley's defense has been able to get teams behind the sticks. We saw it against Page. Page's first drive.
How many times did you get past midfield that game? 1 time?
They got past midfield just 1 time. In fact, their opening possession lost 16 yards. They ended up punting from their 4 after the touchback. You can't do that. You can't do that to yourself with penalties, mistakes, sacks, tackles for loss, especially on 1st and 2nd down. These corners can really lock down. They have a defense that has a tremendous amount of speed. We see it week in and week out.
And what Jackson Kemp's going to be careful of, too, he's going to try to get that ball out quick. He's got to get the ball out quick because the defense is coming after him. He throws to the outside, those receivers. Grimsley guys are playing up on those receivers with defense, and you got to be careful not to let that ball get in those defenders' hands. They time that pass correctly, and we've seen quite a few. I saw 2 pick sixes by Kaiser, yet by the same guy in the same quarter. And that's the same defense Grimsley runs. Kaiser running the same thing.
What the Whirlies have done this year is they have a position group that plays offense and a position group that plays defense. And when you can devote all your time practicing to just one side of the ball, those little nuances of diagnosing plays, reading eyes, these corners, these safeties, when they're just locked in on playing defense day in and day out in practice, and by the way, they're going against a top offense.
That's what you like.
They can really lock in. They can be ball hawks. And we haven't seen teams be able to get a lot of space on these corners. So, for Kemp, for Northern, it's get the ball out quick because the pass rush is going to be there. Find ways to get your playmakers involved. Try to get some favorable matchups. Hope you get some broken tackles. Hopefully get ahead of the chains.
Busy man tomorrow night is going to be that Northern Guilford play caller who's in charge of their offense, all the coordinator calling those plays. He's going to be busy trying to figure out what am I going to go with next. What am I going to do next? It's going to be interesting in that game as they call those plays. And you mentioned the ball hawks. Northern, they have one thing that goes in that territory. They do have a defensive back they call the hawk back, so they do have one of those.
Yeah, and that's going to be important. But I feel like Grimsley at times they can just go away from the pass.
Oh,
you know,
yeah.
with all the different guys. And Darryl Brown told me a couple weeks ago, Andy, that the biggest problem they have on offense is there's only one football.
Yeah,
so many
right.
different guys.
That's been the whole
to
thing
feed it
going
to.
in. But you look at the numbers between Alex Taylor and Terrell, and their numbers are almost right at each other. Passing yards, receiving, plus number of receptions. They're so close. It's like, let's see if we can keep this thing balanced as much as we can. But it's just worked out that way.
Yeah, it has. Their stats almost mirror themselves, both with 700 yards, both with double-digit touchdowns, both with the same amount of catches. Now you're starting to see some other guys start to step up.
Oh, yeah, like Caden Cato.
You know,
Cato, yeah, he's-
Battle. You know, I think you're still going to see Mitchell Summers as a pass catcher, but that's just on the pass game.
Oh, yeah.
Teams have not figured out how to slow down the run game of the Whirlies, which opens up even more in the passing game. Especially when you try to stack the box, you're going to go one-on-one against these wide receivers. It's a tough task.
Busy boardroom for Northern Guilford right now. Busy boardroom, working on getting ready for that.
It is, because it's very difficult in practice to simulate the team speed, and that's something else. It's the biggest takeaway I've talked to with scouts, people that attend these games. They watch Grimsley play and they're like, that's a difficult team to prep for because we don't have anybody as fast as that. And when Grimsley goes with speed and with pace in their offense and you're not lined up, you know.
Yeah, you can't bring college teams into practice with the high school guys. It just doesn't work that way. They don't allow that. So.
Yeah.
Well, tomorrow night, big game. It's going to be at Northern, last game of regular season. Saturday, the brackets come out. Playoff brackets will be out Saturday. People will be watching that closely at the state website, trying to see when those finally do come out. Probably 3 or 4 o'clock in the afternoon, so that's what everybody's. As soon as the game's on tomorrow, it's all about those brackets.
Absolutely.
Mike, good job as always. Enjoyed last week's game. I know you guys are having a great time with those Grimsley games this year and bringing it to GreensboroSports.com every Friday night. 3 or 4 takeaways, first article, second article, recap of the game. Can't wait to grab it.
Throw that out there, get you a little synopsis of what's going on, and come back and kind of fill in with the rest of the material. And by the way, basketball season is right around the corner.
Yeah, I know the Hornets won last night. Unreal. Maybe they can stop the season. They won them all, 1-0. But Miles Bridges is not playing because he hit his girlfriend again. Crazy.
So the Hornets pick up a win before the Panthers do.
Crazy, yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
One shot.
I'm just saying.
Yeah.
But we'll leave it at that.
Game 2. We'll be here before you know it, for sure. Mike, thank you.
All right. Thank you, Andy.
Football in Focus. Tee it up indoors. Back after this.